Hello, my dear viewers. This amazing story will be very instructive for you. It is very interesting and beautiful. I wish you enjoy watching it.
Joe opened the trunk of his car and began to take out his purchases. He had spent all day today at the store, even though he is not a fan of shopping. This time everything brought him joy. The thing is that his spouse Lily was currently in the maternity ward. Soon they would have the son they had been waiting for. When he brought everything he bought into the house, he immediately accepted the list his wife had written. Everything had been bought. There was a crib to put together, a bathtub to put in, well, and little things to deal with, the changing table to hang curtains in the room of the son. My wife couldn't do it herself. Rather, she couldn't have done it. Pregnancy was difficult for her, but she pretended that everything was fine. True, when the doctors told her that it would be better to go into labor, she did not argue. Although Joe knew she'd hated hospitals since she was a child. He remembers how she told him that she was terribly afraid of injections, although as a child from the hospital did not go out of the hospital. I remember I'd be discharged, and then I'd be back with pneumonia, or a terrible sore throat, or something else. My mom used to torture me. I don't want our son to be weak like me. I'd rather let him take after you, be strong and tough like you. Then handsome, he should be like you. Though I've always thought a boy's beauty is in his spirit and mind. You and I are going to have a handsome child, and the most beloved one. And now Joe was packing a crib for his son and thinking how lucky he was to have a wife. She's beautiful and smart, and what a hostess. His friends were always jealous. They said there were no other women like Lily in the world, and he himself knew it very well. They met at a birthday party for a friend of Henry's. As it turned out, they lived in the same house and were neighbors. They went to school together, played on the playground in the evenings, and then they went to college and occasionally got together for company. Henry later confided to Joe that he had asked Lily to go out with him more than once, but she had turned him down. She said they were just friends and nothing serious could happen between them. You wouldn't believe how long I was pining for her. I was jealous. I followed her around a lot. I thought she had a boyfriend. I wanted to deal with him so he'd never come near her again. And she wasn't seeing anyone else at the time, so I took it easy. And then I introduced you two. I saw right away that she liked you. I was mad at you at first, but then I realized you were my best friends, so I'm better off. But I'll keep in touch with you guys. How'd you get over it? I'm over it. You know, I'm dating Stella. I don't think I'm gonna propose yet though, but all in good time. Don't wait too long. Your Stella will get tired of waiting for you. She'll find someone else. You'll be alone again. Then it's not meant to be. You know it's a big step, don't you? I want a strong family, like you and Lily. And I'm not sure about Stella yet. That's why I'm taking my time. While Joe was making the baby's crib, he remembered how he and Lily had gone to the sea, how they had gone to the cottage together, planting potatoes, tomatoes, and cucumbers, how he had argued at her that he had the only day off and he had to work at the cottage instead of sitting at home and watching soccer. She laughed merrily and said that in the winter she will spare potatoes not bought and open a jar of cucumbers and tomatoes, and from the bed. Then she would see what he would say about it. For 8 years of living together, Lily did not fight with him, tried to smooth out conflicts. Perfectly feeling the mood of her husband, she knew that if he was tired, it is better to feed him and give time to rest, and then come and calmly talk about the problems, if any. Then 5 years into their married life, Joe noticed that Lily was getting sad. After he asked her what was wrong, she honestly admitted that she had been to the hospital and wondered why they still didn't have children. The doctor said the problem was me, that I was the one with something wrong there. He gave me treatment, so now I have to go through it. Don't think about bad things. Everything will be fine. You'll give me a son and a daughter. You'll see. The treatment began. No matter what Lily did, no matter what doctor she went to, it was no use. 3 years passed, and she lost heart. Then suddenly, a miracle happened. He remembers this day well. When he came home from work and saw his wife happy and joyful, he immediately understood. It had worked. For the first 3 months of her pregnancy, everything was fine. Lily felt great. She had no nausea, no dizziness, no weakness. She was happy and full of energy all the time. The next 3 months went more or less as well. although he could see that she was no longer as well as she used to be. She went to the hospital often, but the doctor said that everything was fine and that she was worried for nothing. But for the past 3 months, the doctors themselves had become concerned. And during that time, she went to the hospital 3 times. This was the 3rd time. The doctors didn't take any chances and told her to stay in the hospital before the birth. It would be better for her and the baby. Lily didn't argue with the doctors, so she agreed right away. Before she left, she made a list of things she didn't have time to do. Besides, she had to prepare a room for the baby. I couldn't do anything in advance, so I took my time. Joe, it's all on you now. Yeah, I've written down what to buy for you right here. I think by the time the baby and I get home, it'll all be ready. Don't worry, I'll make it perfect. And now Joe was looking forward to Lily having the baby and coming home. Early in the morning, he received a call that Lily had given birth to a baby boy. The baby was feeling great. Joe turned off the phone and thought why they hadn't said anything about Lily. They should have said that mother and child were doing well. A foreboding feeling clenched his heart. He quickly got dressed and drove to the maternity hospital. Don't worry so much, your wife is fine. There were some problems, but it's all behind us, the doctor said. He patted Joe on the shoulder. She and the baby are resting now, so it's best not to disturb them. Come back this afternoon. When can I pick them up? If everything's all right, 3 days. And if it's not, it'll depend on the circumstances. But I assure you, you'll probably have them in 3 days. Joe was sitting in the restaurant, telling his friend about his son. She showed him to me through the window. He looks just like her. And Lily says he looks just like me. I'm happy for you. How's Lily feeling? She says she's fine, but I don't think she is. She's pale and sad. Don't worry. Maybe she just needs to rest. Besides, the baby must be restless. She can't get any rest. I asked, but she said she's very calm. She sleeps all the time. For the first few weeks, all babies eat and sleep. But we'll see. I think it's probably the environment that's affecting her. You know she can't stand the hospital. I'll take her away and everything will be fine. Take care of her. She's the most beautiful woman you've got, Henry said quietly. And Joe realized that his friend was still in love with his wife. He couldn't pick up his wife until 5 days later, and that was only because Lily had insisted on it. I can't take it anymore. These walls are weighing me down. I think I'll be much better at home. Are there any problems? Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm just depressed and the doctors are worried about it. I told them it's because I don't like hospitals, and little Tony wants to go home too. He doesn't like it here. Joe smiled. They named their son Tony. Lily really liked the name and he was okay with it, as long as his wife and son were happy. Lily's health problems must have started a long time ago. She tried to pretend that everything was fine, but Joe could see she was having a hard time with it. If she had plowed through the house before, she was moving very slowly now, and it felt like she was in pain. Joe could see that his wife had lost a lot of weight and was constantly pale and weak. Lily, I can see something's wrong. Let's see a doctor. I can't watch you suffer. Why don't you tell me what hurts? It's just that I'm still recovering from the birth. You can see for yourself how strong our baby is, and I'm fragile, as it turns out. Well, give me a little time and I'll be back to normal. But as time went on, Lily got worse and worse. It was Sunday that day, but Joe was going to the office because he had a lot of business piling up and some paperwork to go through. His business was slowly growing. The furniture he was making was being snapped up, so he had to expand his shop and hire workers because there were a lot of orders and they couldn't keep up. He had already dressed and was about to leave. He heard a noise coming from his son's room. Lily, is something wrong? Did you drop something? There was silence. Joe was about to go out, but then something pushed him. He came back and went into the nursery. Tony was asleep and next to the crib lay Lily. She was unconscious. He didn't go to work that day, asked a neighbor to watch the baby, and rushed to the hospital. The doctor finally admitted him and told him the disappointing news. Lily has cancer. It's very serious and she needs treatment. But you understand, young man, your wife is adamantly refusing treatment. Why don't you talk to her? As far as I know, you have a small child. She needs treatment. I realize it's a long shot, but you can't give up. You have to fight. You don't agree with me? I'll talk to her. Besides, I saw something going on with my wife. I tried to talk to her, but she said she was fine, even though she changed a lot, lost weight. And it was obvious that something was seriously bothering her. Why didn't you take her to the hospital? Lily never lied to me. She said it would pass, that it was too hard. The labor was hard on her, and I believed her. And that's it, young man. Now you know everything. Go and talk to your wife. I think she'll agree with you. Maybe she was just afraid to admit it. You know, people are different. What do you mean? Yes, I'd had a case like that in my practice. Yes, and believe me, more than one. As soon as the husband found out that his wife was sick, nothing good would come of it. But sick people need close, loving people who should be by their side in difficult moments. I don't think Lily ever doubted me. Besides, she knows I'd never leave her, no matter what happens. That's fine, young man. Now go to her. I think she'll listen to you. Lily was lying on the bed with her eyes closed. As soon as he came closer, she opened her eyes and smiled. I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't mean to tell you. I knew you'd tell me, and I know there's nothing I can do to help. Don't say that, Lily. You'll see, everything's gonna be okay. I'm here for you. Believe me, we'll get through this together. But my dear, don't give up on treatment, because my son and I need you so much. Okay, Joe, I'll do it. Okay, but how will you be with your son? And you've got a job. You know, we can't do this. Don't worry, I'll get a nanny and the job won't go anywhere. I can do anything. Just get well and remember that we're not happy without you, which means you have an incentive to get out of here as soon as possible. Lily nodded and closed her eyes. Joe could see that she was not feeling well and didn't say anything more, just sat next to her, held her hand and waited for her to fall asleep. Times had indeed gotten hard. Joe was torn between working with his son and the hospital. The good news was that he was lucky to have a nanny. May was a kind girl. She treated his son like he was her own. I have a son myself. He's 7 years old now. He started school this year on his own. Don't you worry, Joe. You'll be all right, and your wife will be all right. You'll see. You love her very much, and the fact that the son is small, it will quickly raise her on her feet. Joe nodded but didn't say anything. The doctor said they were treating her, but there were no positive results. It was weighing on him, and lately he couldn't even talk to Lily. There was a lump in his throat. He couldn't breathe properly, but Lily could see everything, take his hand at times like this, and soothingly tell him that everything was going to be okay. And if anything does happen, remember, Joe, you have a son, a piece of me. I think you'll make a fine man because you're so good, so kind, so strong. You'll get through this together. You're not the only one I'll have. Lily, don't say that. We need you and my son. We can't live without you. In the evenings, when Joe came home, he let the nanny go, took his son in his arms, sang lullabies to him. He'd tell him about Mommy and how everything was going to be all right, and that soon she'd come home and everything would be like it was before. They would be a happy family again. Just the three of them, her and their favorite son. Listen, Joe, you don't seem like yourself. What's wrong? Asked Henry when he got to his office. I don't know what to do. I've been everywhere I've gone and it's no use. Look, why don't we send her abroad? They said they have better doctors than we do. If it's a matter of money, I'll help. You know very well that I'd do anything for Lily. No, the doctors won't let us take her. She's not well. They're treating her and she's getting worse. I'm starting to think maybe she didn't want to be treated right. It's like she had a feeling it would happen. So don't panic. It's gonna be okay. Lily's strong. Besides, she's got a son. She's been dreaming of having a baby. She'll pull through. You'll see. By the way, who's babysitting your son? You got a nanny? Yes, May is a nice girl, and she has a son too. I can see she's good with the kid. Tony's fed and fed on time, and she puts him to bed on time, plays with him. Can you imagine? He's just a little kid, but he listens to her stories carefully, like he understands something. That evening, when Joe came home, Tony was already asleep. May was waiting for him in the kitchen. And you'll forgive me, May, for staying out so late. I just had to work late. I had a lot of orders piling up, so I had to take care of everything. But don't worry, I'll make it up to you. It's no big deal. You told me you'd probably be home late. I understand. You've got a kid too. You should have been home a long time ago. My mom babysits my Harry. He understands that his mom has to work. Doesn't your husband make enough money? He left us when Harry was 2 years old. He left his son for another woman. He was very upset. He gave up his son. But he got married and took her in with 2 kids. So you can bring up strangers, but you don't need your own son. I don't understand men. How can they think like that? I'm sorry, May, but I can't help you here. I mean advice. I don't understand it either. But people are different and they do what they think is right. You were right. It was tactless of me to ask you that. You were right. I apologize if I said something unnecessary. No, I understand. Let me call you a cab. It's late. So you'd better not take public transportation at this hour. I'd be very grateful. There was a lot of work to do. Joe couldn't keep up. And it was so bad he couldn't find a place to go. He called the hospital every hour to see how Lily was doing. He was told that everything was fine, that there was no change. He didn't have time to visit her that day. He finished work at 12 o'clock. Besides, he had to rush home and let the nanny go. She had been late enough lately. At home, as always, everything was in order. Tony was asleep and May was in the kitchen waiting for Joe as usual. "I got dinner for you. Eat it before it gets cold. I better get going. I promised my son I'd be home early today, but I'm not gonna keep that promise again. How's your day off? You tell me, I'll at least take my son somewhere. I'm already embarrassed in front of him." "I understand. I just have a lot of work to do. And about a day off. Let's do it in a couple days. I'll let you know as soon as I'm more or less settled." "Okay, I understand. Now I have to go. Good night." But it was a terrible night for Joe at the 4th hour when he was already asleep. He got a call from the hospital that his Lily had died. After hearing this, Joe was in so much pain that he thought he was going to burst. He didn't know what to do. The only thought in his head was that she was no longer with him and would never be. That he had lost his most beloved woman and that now he was alone. Lily's words flashed through his mind that he wasn't alone, that they had a son, only it wasn't them anymore, but he didn't have her anymore. How was he supposed to go on with his life now? He vaguely remembered the funeral. It was raining that day, and it seemed to him that even nature was crying because such a bright person as his Lily was gone. People came up to him and said something, but he didn't care. He looked at the hill and at the cross that Lily was gone. What would he do next? He didn't know. Right? Don't give up. You need your strength. You got a little boy in your arms. He looked up and looked at Henry. He was there, as always. He was the one who'd organized the whole thing. Joe couldn't have done anything on his own. "I don't know how I'm supposed to go on. I've done everything for her. And now what? Now you're gonna do it all for your son. The pain will go away. Time heals, you know, but you're not alone. Don't forget that. Besides, Lily wanted you to have a child so badly, so raised him to be a decent man, to make her proud of him." Joe nodded and walked to the car. "Stay with me tonight. We'll sit down, have a drink. I just need to talk. I can't sleep now anyway." "Yeah, I can see that. A few minutes ago, I was just gonna suggest you go to bed." "Who's Tony with?" "He's with the babysitter. She's gonna stay home with him tonight." "He's with the babysitter. She knows I don't have a lot to do right now. But tomorrow I'll give her the day off. I'll take care of my son. And now we'll go somewhere. I can't take it anymore." They sat in a separate booth in the restaurant, drank, but they didn't get drunk. They reminisced. "Don't you remember when you said you proposed to her? Remember? To be honest, I could barely resist smacking you in the face. I couldn't understand why she chose you over me. And I was jealous of you for a long time. I knew you loved her and thought you'd take her away from me. And then I realized I was wrong to be afraid. Lily told me right away that you were just a friend to her and that she loved me. That's what she told me. And I was trying to get her after all. She told me that she couldn't live without you, that you were her destiny. And I understood. As they say, you can't force your way in. You know how happy I was for you afterwards. You're my friend. She's the woman I love. But I was happy for you. I always thought that sooner or later I'd have a family like yours. I saw how happy you were. You've got a long way to go. But for me, it ended with her leaving. I know I'll never marry again because I'll never meet another woman like her. That's fine. At least I have a son. Don't tell me. You're still young, and time passes. Wounds heal. So it's possible that someone will come along, but it'll be a different kind of love from the one you had. May had dreamed of marrying a prince since she was a child. Then, growing up, she realized that it's not as easy as written in the fairy tales she loved so much. There are princes, of course, but they won't even look at someone like May. That was a shame. How was she any worse than anyone else? Beautiful, tall, with a great figure. But she didn't get the kind of guy she wanted. She didn't even want to meet them. So she didn't hesitate to make it clear that they were out of luck. "You'll be alone," grumbled her mom. "Then bite your elbows late into the night. And what do you want me to marry, a simple guy to bring me home pennies? And get on my nerves? No thanks. I've seen enough. How did you and my dad live? You tell me, what have you ever seen in your life? He never even gave you a gift because he didn't care about you. And I don't want that. I need to be loved. I need to be spent on. I need to be happy. You know, daughter, I understand you, of course. But you can't go over your head. The rich are looking for someone like you. And you, as far as I understand, you're not a blue blood. So get over it and find yourself a man, even if not rich, but worthy. You know, Mom, let me handle my life on my own. I don't need your advice. I don't need your advice. That's enough. I've listened to you long enough. Now I realize I have to live my own life. Nothing, you'll see. There will be a holiday on my street too." May's holiday soon came. She got a job at an advertising agency. A little freed up, she also met the owner of the agency, Jim, who was at that time 55 years old. He had a thick build, bald spots on his head, and was constantly sweating. But that didn't stop her. She learned that he was married, had a grown daughter, and a host of mistresses. But May didn't want to stop there. The role of mistress didn't suit her, and she was determined to take the job. Jim was pleasantly surprised when he was introduced to his new employee. May knew she was stunning, so she wasn't at all surprised when he asked her out to a restaurant. She'd said yes. May pretended not to take the hint. As they sat and talked that very nose deep into his hook, she knew it would work because she could see his eyes burning at her. She didn't want to rush it because such a big clump could easily slip away. But she didn't show complete indifference either, realizing that Jim was not lacking in female attention. "May, have you been to the seaside?" "May, I've been on vacation recently. I'm thinking of going again. Would that be all right with you?" "I don't think so, because I've only just got a new job." "Yeah, and it wouldn't be right if I started taking time off. But, sweetheart, it's up to me. If you're a good girl, everything will be fine." "What do you care if I'm a good girl or not? What do you care if I'm a good girl? As far as I know, you have no shortage of female companionship. So I don't think I'm right for you." "May, I'm fascinated by you. You are very beautiful, but you're also very smart. I'm offering you to be my favorite. I assure you, you're the only one I'll ever have. Say yes. On one condition, you must have no one else but me." Lily's heart sank. So the fish is hooked, but it's too early to pull. It might fall off. "I need to think about something," she said. "I don't suppose you'd mind. Think about it, my beauty. Just please don't take too long. If you agree, I'll rent an apartment for you. You'll live there, and I'll come to you. I'm sorry I won't be able to come often because I'm married, but I'll find time." May kept a pause. For 3 days, Jim Viktorovich was all impatient, but said nothing. Only every day he sent her flowers, which were already set all over her desk. "What kind of an admirer do you have?" The girls asked her. Every day a bouquet. He must be loaded, because those flowers are expensive. "Yes, there's a suitor. Yes, I'm thinking, should I go out with him or not? I haven't decided yet." "Of course you should, if he's not ugly. Besides, May, you can see he's rich. So take the bull by the horns, or he'll be gone in no time." And so, finally, May said yes. Jim kept his promise. He got her an apartment, and what made her happy? A nice apartment downtown in a nice neighborhood. And the apartment itself was luxury, good repair, beautiful furniture. She mentally imagined how much it cost. Then he took her to the sea, as promised, and she could see that her boyfriend was crazy about her. In fact, it worked. After they got back, she slowly began to act out. First, she said she had nothing to wear to work because she didn't have any decent clothes. In addition, they often go to a restaurant, and she feels uncomfortable because everyone pays attention to her from the fact that she is poorly dressed. When the clothing issue was resolved, she asked Jim for a car and he immediately bought her one. He would do anything for her that she didn't ask for. She liked that, so they dated for a year. Then May realized she wasn't satisfied with it all. What she was getting from her lover was just crumbs from the table. But things could be different if she became his wife. She'd seen Jim's wife at a corporate event once, a well-groomed woman with a stunning diamond necklace around her neck. She mentally tried on a fortune and realized it would look better on her, so she decided to take action. "Jim, I want to talk to you," she began when he came to her again. "What is it, my little swallow? That I can't go on like this. I want to see you every day. I want to wake up with you every morning to make you coffee in bed and then get ready to go to work with you. I miss you so much. I told you I'm married. I can't leave my wife. You see, I owe her a lot. I understand you. Then let's break up because I can't take it anymore. I'm young, I'm beautiful, so getting married is not a problem for me, and you go on with your life as you like. But my little bunny, I can't live without you either. But I can't live without you. I won't let you get married because I don't want to share you with anyone. And I don't want to share you with anyone either. I don't want to share you with anyone. Only you don't care. As far as I'm concerned, you and your wife live like roommate to roommate. So why would you want to do that? You're still a man in the prime of his life. So why should you give up your happiness? Well, okay, I'll think about it. I'll think about it." May was happy. She thought she'd won, but as time went on, nothing changed. Everything was exactly the same. She tried to broach the subject again, but Jim found reasons. He said the time wasn't right yet, and May realized that here it was necessary to act differently. If she could not force him to leave his wife, she would force him in another way, that is, give him a child. Jim had only a daughter already grown up. As far as she knew, more his wife could not give birth to him because she could not for health reasons. Although Jim himself repeatedly said that he would like to have more children, so she will give birth to him. And if she gives birth to a boy, he will definitely leave his wife and live with her. She'd do anything to get him. When she told her friend about her plans, she said, "Oh, May, I don't think it's a good idea. Besides, are you really going to live with that unpleasant old man? I almost threw up when I saw him. And living with him is horrible, and to have a child with him. You don't understand. I don't need him. I need his money. You think once I get him, I'll be faithful to him? You're wrong. I'm the goody-goody now. Once I get what I want, I'm gonna live by my own rules. Understand? And he's not gonna get away from me. He's gonna do everything I want him to do. Don't you think you're underestimating him because he's a stupid man? He wouldn't have made it this far. He's the one who's smart in business, but when it comes to women, his mind goes blank. He's crazy about me. That's what I wanted. Besides, he's terrified of losing me. If he finds out I'm expecting a child, he'll leave his wife and marry me." "Wait a minute, girl. You're serious about having a baby? Wait a minute. I thought you were just gonna say you're pregnant, and then when it's done, when he divorces his wife, you'll think of something." "No, that's not gonna work. I need to bond with him, and only a baby can do that. Trust me, he'll fall for it. And if he doesn't, you'll be alone with the baby. Are you listening to what I'm saying? I won't be alone. He'll be with me, I understand. Don't get so angry. I just can't believe it, to be honest." May decided to act first. She went off the pills she'd been taking to avoid getting pregnant. Then she wondered if Jim could make her a baby at his age. Then, however, she calmed down and decided that if it didn't work out with him, she would make it with another guy and tell him that it was his child. He'd be so happy he'd believe anything. A month went by, and lo and behold, May did get pregnant. When she found out about it, she decided to prepare herself and break the news to Jim in an intimate setting. She had already decided that she would have a romantic dinner. They would drink some wine, and then she would break the news to him. She left work early, saying she wasn't feeling well, knowing full well that Jim would find out and rush over there tonight. And so he did. He came to find out how his favorite woman was feeling. He was a little surprised to find the table set, candles, and wine glasses. "So I don't get it. Are you expecting someone?" he asked sharply. Of course, I'm waiting for you. He relaxed. Then he looked at her in surprise. They told me you were sick and that you canceled. I even bought you some fruit. I thought you were sick. What's going on? I've got news for you. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm gonna tell you. We're having a baby. What? You're having a baby with who? Jim, aren't you hard of hearing? I told you we're having a baby together. You know very well that I love only you, so the baby is yours. But I thought that age, that I probably won't be able to have any more children. But I'm not. And now this, you're just blowing my mind. So I don't know if you're happy or not. Of course I'm happy. It's settled. I'm gonna go home tonight and talk to my wife. I'll tell her that I can't live like this anymore, that I'm in love with another woman and that I'm leaving her. I think she'll understand. We've been together for so many years. May was inwardly triumphant. The plan had worked. She'd gotten what she wanted. Okay, honey, I'll wait for you. Just don't leave me too long. We'll miss you. Jim stood at the door, not sure what she meant. You're just not used to it yet. You don't have me alone now. Now you have me and our baby. She waited for Jim the next day, but he wasn't at work either. And he didn't answer the phone either. She couldn't understand what was going on. But then she calmed down. Of course, it's not that simple. It is clear that most likely his wife gave him a scandal because no matter how it is, and together they have lived for many years, but still the victory is already behind her. So there is no need to worry. Then another day passed and it was still Sunday morning. May went to the kitchen to make coffee, and she had plans to go shopping. The doorbell rang, and she thought it was her friend, the one they were going shopping with, coming in. But it wasn't her. Jim's spouse was standing there. May was at a loss for words, but apparently that's what Lara wanted. May couldn't remember her middle name. Will you close the door, or do you want all the neighbors to hear our conversation? May came to her senses and obediently closed the door. Listen to me, girl. If you want to go on with your life, you leave my Jim alone. He'll never divorce me. Do you understand? Because everything he has now is mine. I told him that if he divorced me, I'd leave him penniless. He panicked a little, but he agreed. I realized it was about the baby. But I don't believe you, sweetie. As far as I know, you don't want him without money, do you? May went cold. Of course she didn't. Why would she want a used man who was poor? I thought so. So I suggest we part amicably. You quit your job. You move on with your life. And don't come back to us. Is that clear? But what about the baby? I don't care about that. That's your problem. You didn't ask anyone when you decided to get pregnant. So what's the problem now? Keep it that way. You solve your own problems. But I don't want to hear a peep out of you at work. And if you don't calm down, if you start talking about it to anyone or call him my husband, I'll give you something you can't even imagine. She turned and walked toward the door. Then she added, I hope you heard me, because I don't like to swear. But this situation has brought out even me. Goodbye. I hope you got it right. She left, and May sat down on the couch and wrapped her arms around herself to stop shivering. She had absolutely no idea what she should do now. The plan she thought was flawless had fallen through, and she was now not only alone and without money, but also with a baby. May quit her job. She realized that Lara was not to be trifled with. She made it clear that if anything went wrong, she would do anything to make things worse for May. May's next step was to go to the hospital. She knew that since she wouldn't have a rich husband, she shouldn't have a baby. But even there, she got an unpleasant surprise. You what? It's your first pregnancy, so if you can't get rid of the baby, then you won't be able to have children. Do you understand that? But it's not true. Lots of women do it and nothing happens. They have babies. I'm strong. So is my body. So I don't think it'll be a problem. Why are you sitting at home? Look for a job, and I'll look after your son myself. Mom, he's your grandson. Why don't you ever call him that? He'd be my grandson if you'd given birth to him properly married to the man you love. Mom, this is my grandson. What's this? I don't even want to say. Jobs were hard to come by. May got a job in an office. It was a small salary, but she was happy with it for now. She started looking for a rich suitor again so that she could somehow raise her financial situation again and move out of her mother's house. But the catch was still small. With money, her lovers parted reluctantly. They refused to rent her an apartment. They didn't buy gifts, and they didn't give her much money. She didn't understand what was going on. What had changed? Yes, she had a child, but she was not going to hang it on them. And she tried not to advertise the fact that she had a son. And it still wasn't working. Time went on. May was still interrupting, realizing that it was very difficult to live with such a salary. She tried to find something worthwhile, but the places that paid well did not require workers. Apparently, such places were most likely to be taken by black. She was in so much pain she didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Harry's son was growing up. Here he already went to kindergarten, and soon school would be here. She needed money again, only she didn't know how she could make money so her son wouldn't need anything. Why do you suffer? A friend once told her at a meeting. I, for example, do not know grief. I got a job as a housekeeper in a rich house. I earn a great salary, and I'd advise you to do the same. Would I clean up after someone? Never. It's not for me. You don't want to clean for a nanny. Go look at the number of nannies it takes to look after rich kids. They pay a lot of money. Plus, it's just the way you like it, rich boyfriend. I don't know. You know, I'm not used to cleaning pots for anyone but my son. I'll have to think about it. What's there to think about? What's there to think about? Look at yourself. Who do you look like? When was the last time you had a manicure? And your hair? You should get a good job. He's throwing money around and you're not getting much. What helped May was that Tony was a quiet child. He hardly ever cried. That suited her. So, in fact, she even started to enjoy her work. What did she do? She fed him a little, played with him a little, and he sleeps. And she can do whatever she wants. In addition, she really liked that in the refrigerator there were delicacies that she could safely eat. There was even real caviar, not fake, which now in the store a lot. She liked real caviar very much. In fact, life was getting better. True, she would like a man like Joe, but he still did not pay attention to her. And she also realized that his wife was really seriously ill, most likely incurable. That was good for her. Sooner or later he would pay attention to May, only she would have to wait a little longer. Now she would act very carefully, like a sapper walking through a minefield, lest, God forbid, she'd herself be blown up, as she had been with Jim. She would not make that mistake again. She's smarter now. Now she knows exactly what she wants. And as long as Joe was married, she wouldn't say anything to him and she wouldn't even show him what she wanted from him. And she wanted a lot. She saw that he had money. Even if he wasn't a millionaire, he still lived very well. And she needed to provide for her son. That's her boy, even though she didn't want him at the time. Now she realized that this is the only person she truly loves and who loves her. Today, she decided to spend the whole day with her son because she had been paying too little attention to him lately. Besides, her son went to the first grade. He had a sea of emotions to share with his mom. But she came late and he was already asleep. At the same time, she decided to meet a friend who said that today she was also on vacation and would come to them to have a little chat. They sat in a summer cafe and watched Harry looking at the fish that swam in the pool not far from their table. Look, I didn't know there were fish in here. Look how interesting it is for a kid. I like this cafe too. I come here often. It's calm, quiet, and by the way, the food is delicious. Shall we order something? Let's do it later because my son and I haven't worked up an appetite yet. Okay, now tell me how you're doing. How's work going? I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. And how's the man? Is he already yours? Or is it still in development? Neither. What's that? Is he so ugly that you just don't want to get involved with him? No, he's very good looking. No, he just loves his wife. I don't know when that's ever stopped you. What's going on, May? Come on, tell me. What's there to tell? His wife is sick, and he loves her very much. Now think about it. If I go after him with my feelings now, I'll just ruin everything. And you can't do that. I never dreamed of a man like that. Not only handsome, but also very kind, calm, reasonable. He suits me. He's the kind of man I could make ropes out of. But it's not time yet. All I know is that sooner or later he'll be mine. May, do you like him at least a little bit? What does it matter if I like him or not? You know what I need from him is to get myself and my son settled, and then we'll see. I thought you were finally in love. That you were serious about this man? Stop it. I don't love anyone. There's no love in this life. I don't believe in it. I'm all about money. I don't want to live like my mother did. It's just awful to be shaking all the time, thinking about what to feed and how to buy clothes for the baby and myself. What is love? My mom was in love too. And that he traded us for another family where he's raising 2 other people's kids. And he didn't even visit us. He paid a penny in child support, and that's it. I don't want that. Thank you. All I know is that I can only rely on myself in this life. I don't need anyone else. And I'd like to fall in love. A proper marriage. I'd like to have a family. I'd like him to love me and I'd love him. I'd like to have kids and raise them together. You were so naive. But of course, it's your business, it's your life. So you know best. So Joe doesn't pay any attention to you at all. I told you his wife's sick, but that's okay. I feel like my time will come. I'm patient. I'm slowly but surely working towards my goal. I even learned to cook for it, but like I used to be able to do. But now those skills come in handy. You're cooking for him. What are you doing? Well, of course, he comes in late at night, work, then the hospital. He's got it all wrapped up, poor guy. And I make him a hot dinner. He likes it, I can see that. In general, a normal man likes to eat. I watch his son better than I watch my own. I just can't figure out what's going on with his wife. But I think it's bad. I wish she'd go away already. I'm starting to get tired of this. What are you saying? Is that any way to wish someone dead? What's the big deal? You've lived a little and that's enough. Make way for others. Besides, why does he need a sick wife? It's a waste of money. If only it made her feel better. It doesn't. May could see that her friend didn't understand her at all, but she didn't care. Everyone lives their life as they see fit. She does. What about the rest of us? The main thing is to pursue your goal. Then everything will work out. That day started as usual. Joe went to work and May took care of little Tony. The day stretched like a rubber band, and she couldn't find anything to do at home. This job wasn't for her after all. It annoyed her, but she tried to control herself. The goals were different after all. Joe arrived very late, as usual. Hadn't even had time to stop by the hospital today, he said. I'll have to be there first thing tomorrow morning. My Lily must be worried. I called the hospital, though. The word my Lily made May shudder. How could she hate it? It's wussy my. I love and so on. But she didn't show it. She set the table and then began to get ready herself. Joe called her a cab again and she went home, but she didn't get a good night's sleep. Joe called her and asked her to come over right away. May didn't realize what had happened. Tony's got something, a fever. Lily's dead. I have to go to the hospital. May understood. After she finished talking, she got up and started to pack. She smiled victoriously as she did so. Well, it would finally be her time now. True, it wouldn't be easy again. It will take time, because he will grieve a lot. But she'll be there for him, permanently. She'll probably stay there overnight. He'll be away from the baby for a while, and this will be her kingdom. Slowly she'll get her way. Those days were indeed difficult. May was always home alone, and she never saw Joe. If he came home, it was only to get his papers and nothing else. May didn't say or ask anything. She realized he didn't care about her at all right now. Let things settle down, get back to normal, and then she wouldn't lose her way. It was a year after Lily's death. Joe slowly began to live again, though at first he thought he'd died with his wife. But as they say, nothing lasts forever. And he had a son who began to walk and babble, but only in a language he understands. His son probably brought him out of it. And then there's May. She was always there, doing everything she could to make Joe feel better. He was very grateful to her for that. He liked that she took charge of his son's upbringing, staying late, if not staying overnight at his apartment. He knew it was wrong. After all, she's a young woman. She has her own personal life. Besides, she also has a child to pay attention to. But for the first time, he couldn't get over his grief. He wanted nothing and did nothing. Then, of course, thanks to Henry, who supported him as best he could, he began to come to himself. After all, life went on. I see you're doing well again, Henry said, when they met him for lunch. Thank you. It's all thanks to you. And you look different, even though it's time. It's been a year. Tell me honestly, are you seeing someone? Don't worry about it. I think it's normal. I mean, Lily's gone and there's no getting her back. But we have to move on with our lives. Who is she? I don't want to talk about it yet. Come on. I'm your best friend. Tell me who you got in there. It's May. I don't know how it happened. I guess it's because she's been there for me through the hardest times. She's a wonderful woman, beautiful, kind. My son loves her very much, and she loves him. It's strange. She didn't seem like that to me, for example. I know women like that, and they're incapable of love. It's just that you're a wealthy man. That's all she's interested in, so I wouldn't advise it. You just don't know her. But if you get to know her, you'll realize you're wrong. Okay, then let's go away for the weekend. Let's go to the countryside, for example. I'll watch her, how she treats you. And then I'll draw conclusions. Do you agree? 'Cause I don't want you to get your heart broken by some bitch after what happened to you. Joe arrived home and looked over at May, who was cooking something on the stove. It smelled really good and he felt hungry. I'm so glad I have you. Thank you. Where's Tony? Is he in his room playing? Tony's been asleep for a long time. Did you look at the time? It's true, I've got so much work to do again. I don't look at the time. Listen, but at least we're going away this weekend. Me and the kids, and my friend Henry's coming. Besides, May, I wish you'd bring your son over already. It's not right. You're living with me and he's at grandma's all the time. Is that really what you want? Of course, I want us to have a family, but we're far from a family. Why is that? Because you and I are just dating as lovers. We're not married, and we don't have a family. Don't get me wrong, it's not a rebuke. It's just that you know I always say what I think. I'm sorry, May, I understand. Just give me some time. You know, I guess I'm not quite over what happened. I understand, it seems like a lot of time has passed, but it's not that simple. I understand everything and I'm not telling you anything. I'm fine with you knowing that. That's all I need. You are the most beautiful woman. What about nature? Don't you agree? I agree. Besides, Harry's been asking for a picnic for a long time, so I'm in. May met up with a friend she hadn't seen in, like, 3 months. Joe had stayed home to work, and she said she had some shopping to do and a friend to meet. So, tell me how you're doing. Not so far. He seems to like me and I live with him all the time and we sleep in the same bed. But that's it. And I need him not to marry us, because otherwise I'll be left with nothing again. You do realize that being a spouse is one thing, but being in bed together is another. Can you imagine how tired I am of this? I'm exhausted. How I sometimes want to tell him that I'm sick of him with his worries. But you have to listen, pretend to sympathize. I didn't think it would last this long. It's been so long, and he keeps bringing up his wife. It's really pissing me off. What do you think you're gonna do next? I've wasted too much time on him. I can't go back. So what? You're just gonna give it all up? No, girlfriend. That's exactly what I'm not ready for. I'm gonna go all the way, and then we'll see. Besides, we're going to the country this weekend for a picnic. And you know I hate it, but I had to lie to you that I promised my son a long time ago, and that I'm really excited. Plus, his friend Henry's gonna be there. I don't like him. I feel like he sees right through me. Well, it's all right. I got his head screwed on straight. He'll realize I'm not a threat. Yeah, girl, I see you're having a hard time. Yeah. Life would be better if they weren't around. Not Joe or his kid. He's got a beautiful apartment in the center of the city, close to stores, schools, kindergartens, plus a place of his own, like I dream of. But he'll marry me anyway. I won't give up. But I'm running out of strength. Sorry to hear about your friend. I hope you'll make it. Will you invite me to the wedding? Oh, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'll never get there. Besides, he probably won't do the wedding. He's getting married for the second time. I don't mind. The main thing is the stamp and the passport, and then it'll be my time. So you don't love him at all? You don't love him at all? Yes, I don't love him at all. It was a beautiful day after they had chosen a beautiful clearing. May was like a true hostess, making sure everyone was comfortable. She knew that everyone wanted to eat right away, so they stocked up on food. Harry immediately began to carry sandwiches from the table, and she gave little Tony a plate of smoked chicken. She knew how much he loved it. Meanwhile, the men began to sort out their fishing gear to catch fish and make soup. With Henry came a pretty girl who also began to help May, trying to make conversation with her. "I believe your name is May? I'm Jill. Nice to meet you." May didn't really want to talk to her, but she couldn't help herself. So she put a smile on her face and said it was a pleasure to meet you. "I see you like children. Henry tells me you've been raising Tony since he was born. Is that true?" "Yeah, I took a job with Joe when his wife got sick." "Yeah, Tony was just a baby." "Yes, it's terrible to die so young and leave a son and a husband. I'm sorry to say it happens in life." "And you, Jill, what do you do?" May was tired of answering her stupid questions, so she quickly changed the subject, knowing it would work. "And I work with Henry. He and I started dating a while ago. Although I didn't want to be honest, because I was told he's a womanizer. He's also a born bachelor. I don't think he's ever getting married. I can't really understand why. Are you and Joe serious?" May realized that Henry had probably sent this girl to find out about their relationship. "It's hard to talk about it now. We're good together. But at the same time, I realized that it's not over yet. It's hard to lose someone you love, and I understand it well. Hey, you also had this happen in your life?" May didn't know what to answer. No, she didn't care about other people, and she'd never lost anyone. And even if she had, she wouldn't care. "I don't want to talk about it. You know, it's unpleasant to think about it. We're going on vacation today, not to be sad. Do you agree with me?" Jill nodded and went to Henry to report everything she could find out. "But that's okay. She'll make sure no one guesses anything." Joe came over to her, put his arm around her and asked her if she liked the outdoors. "Very much. Besides, I really wanted to get some rest. And look how much fun our kids are having. You've noticed that Harry and Tony have become friends, even though they have an age difference." May put pressure on the word. Our children cared about that, and she realized that she would use that to her advantage now too. The day flew by very quickly. Everyone was having fun. Only May felt wildly tired. She'd always felt like she was carrying bags, not resting. That's why she couldn't stand going out into nature. As soon as they got home, May realized with horror that she still had a ton of things to do, and she couldn't even stand on her feet. She wished she could just lie on her bed and fall asleep. But alas, every hostess has her responsibilities, and when you have children at home, you can't neglect them. "Joe, why don't you give me a hand with the kids?" "Yeah, I need to bathe them and put them to bed. I don't feel like saying hello." Together they did it quickly. May breathed a sigh of relief when she was finally in bed. Joe said he had some work to do and went into his office. She was very glad of that, because all she wanted to do was sleep. The next day, Henry came to Joe's office. He brought him some papers, but he also stayed to talk a little. "Hey, we had a good time last night. And by the way, you were right. Meg is a very modest and intelligent girl. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. She seemed different to me for some reason. And she's great with the kids, and she loves Tony like his own son. That's what I'm telling you. I'll probably ask her to marry me. I can't think of a better mom for my son. That's why I like her. And Tony already thinks she's his mom." "You were right. What's the holdup? I think it'll work out. May's birthday is coming up, so I'm gonna propose to her that day." As the days went by, May began to realize that her patience was running out. It seemed to her that she was still the same nanny, that she was only required to look after the child, but also to cook, clean, and do the laundry. She decided not to say anything yet, but to wait until her birthday and see what he would give her. If she is not satisfied with anything, she will drop everything and leave. "I'm sick of it. How much longer can we put up with this?" She wasn't hired as a housekeeper. She spent so much time on all this. Of course, it was a pity to leave everything, but she couldn't go on living like this. She called her friend and they arranged to meet. She took Tony with her, and Harry went to his grandmother's. It was better for Mal. "What's up, girlfriend? How's it going?" I knew right away something was wrong. When you're doing well, you don't even call me. Stop it, please. Like you have time. Okay. Actually, you said it right. I'm in trouble. And you're the only one I can talk to. I'm tired. I can't take it anymore. You want to quit? Yes, I'm scared. Years go by and I'm still babysitting. Not just for one kid. Now I've got two, a father and his son. I'm so tired. I can't look at them anymore. You have no idea. I can't even imagine how much that kid pisses me off. He's all over the place, always asking. Joe took out a box, opened it, and May saw the ring. A rather modest ring, though. She'd never have chosen one of those. But that didn't matter now. She had waited. It was a victory. She wanted to grab the ring and jump around the room like she used to when she was little. But she restrained herself, raised her eyes in surprise, and looked at Joe. Are you serious? I just thought you didn't want to get married anymore. The memory of a wife. That was before. It's different now. I love you and I want you to be my wife, father, and mother. Do you agree? May nodded and tried to be restrained, though she wanted to scream. How are you, my love? Do you want a wedding? I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate. Besides, what's the point of all this? All that matters is that you and I love each other. I think we should just register and that's it. Of course, we could celebrate at a restaurant and invite some friends. But since I don't have anyone, I'll invite Henry and his girlfriend. What about your mom? Don't you want to invite her to our party? What about your mom? Mom's been sick. It's nothing serious, but I think she'll say no. We'd rather go over to her place and sit with her later, okay? Whatever you say, sweetheart. You know, you're so wonderful. There's no other woman like you in the world. I've been talking to Henry. He's my friend after all. He really liked you too. I told him I wanted to propose on your birthday, and he said that would be great. May mentally smiled victoriously. Everything was going just as she had planned. It just took a little patience. She had gotten her way, and now she would soon be a full-fledged mistress of this house, and everything here would soon be hers. The next day, she called her friend and arranged a meeting. I'm sorry I didn't wish you a happy holiday yesterday. I worked all day, but you didn't invite me either, by the way. We didn't invite guests. It was just us. And Joe proposed to me, so I'm getting married soon. Wow, you did it. Congratulations, though. Are you gonna invite me to the wedding? There's not gonna be a wedding. Why would I do that? God forbid one of my lovers recognizes me. Why? For him, I'm a completely pure woman, kind, obedient, who is also a wonderful hostess, loving children. So true. Or your Jim and his wife will show up at the wedding and everything will be clear. Exactly, and I don't want that. I didn't work so hard for this to be ruined in a moment. It's gonna be low-key. I don't even want to call my mom or she'll ruin it for me. She'll start telling me I've finally gotten smart. I stopped loving money. She'll start talking nonsense like she always does. That's no good either. All right, friend. I hope you won't forget about me when you're a married lady. I know you. You only call when you feel. A month passed after the wedding. May held back for now because she realized it was too early to claim her rights. The only thing she had done was to bring Harry back to their house and get him settled into his new school. She dressed him decently and was pleased that her boy now looked like a child from a wealthy family. Plus, she wanted to hire a housekeeper, but she already knew Joe, and she knew he'd be against it. He'd say something like, you stay at home, you don't work, so you should do the housework yourself. And she didn't want to. She's been working like crazy for a few years. Now the holiday is on her street, and no one will make her live like before. She had to think of something. She called her friend and said they needed to talk. They met again at her favorite cafe. What's wrong with you again? Listen, I want a housekeeper. I'm tired of doing everything myself. Can you recommend someone? I can't help you there, but I'll give you some advice. Get out of your head. Why did you go to work with Joe? There's girls working now, young, pretty. You know what they want. There's even been complaints about them. You gotta understand, a man is a man. If a woman turns tail in front of him, he can't resist. Do you want that? No. Okay, then we have to think of something. Call the company and they'll come and clean it up in no time. Yeah, and no one will bother you around the house and you won't have to worry about a thing. I guess that's what they'll do. Thanks for the advice. I was about to do something stupid. You're welcome. You look great, by the way. You look good married. Not really. My husband and his kid are annoying. I can't stand them, but it's not so bad, of course. I finally have some money. He gave me his card, so I can buy everything in peace, but I'm in no hurry to take it all away from him. I want to take it all away from him. How are you going to do that? I'm going to get him to sign it over to me. I've got some ideas, but it'll take time. You'll see, I'll soon be a very rich lady. But May knew she shouldn't rush into things just yet. She needed to be the perfect wife for a while. It was easier now, though. She had her own car that Joe had given her. There was money for the wedding, so there was no need to rush. The only thing that annoyed her terribly was Tony. The little boy kept pestering her with stupid questions and requests, and she tore him away from her like a little dog. But that was while Joe was away. As soon as he appeared on the doorstep, she immediately began to deal with her son, talking to him gently. Harry saw how his mother treated the little boy and began to hurt him too. But at the same time, he realized that when the stepfather is at home, the boy is better not to touch. So they had, and it turned out that when they gathered as a family, they had a complete idyll. Tony's weird, Joe said. Harry plays with him, and he runs away from him as if he's scared. You know, they had a fight the other day. My son accidentally broke the tower Tony had built and wanted to show me. He cried for so long, I could barely calm him down. I guess he still resents him. But don't worry, it'll all blow over. I hope so. I don't want the kids to fight. Besides, the subject thinks of you as a mom, and Harry as a brother. That's great. I, for one, always wished I had a brother. But my parents didn't want any more kids. They worked hard, and I didn't want anyone because I saw how hard it was for my mother to raise me alone. So, to be honest, I didn't want to get married for a long time. Then I met Harry's father, and he was betrayed. Don't worry. Forget about the bad stuff. You and me, we're gonna be fine. May wasn't worried. She already knew everything was going to be fine. She just had to do the right thing. You know, I've been thinking about the past a lot. I'm afraid that you'll leave me on the street like my husband once did. It's very scary. In such cases, husbands somehow insure their wives, rewrite the house on them, realizing that if it happens that his spouse will not be on the street. But understand, this is Tony's house. Besides, you know damn well I'm not getting away from you. And this is our kid's house. Do you agree with me? May nodded. Actually, what did she expect? That Joe would immediately rush to sign over all the property to her. Why don't you introduce me to your mother? It's embarrassing. I mean, we did get married. We've been living together for a long time. And I haven't seen your mother yet. Why don't we go visit her this weekend? May was confused. She'd forgotten all about her mother. And then Joe said something like that. But she pulled herself together, smiled, and said, So Mom's away at the resort. Remember I told you she was sick? So the doctor recommended her to go on vacation and heal a little. You know, mud baths, seawater. It'll be good for her right now. And when she arrives, we'll go straight to her. Well, good, because it's not very nice. Besides, she's never been here before, and she's never seen her other grandson. Better yet, I'll take a few days off and we'll all go to the cottage together. It's beautiful there. I think you'll like it there. May, of course, doubted that, but she smiled and was glad to have such a caring and attentive husband. Henry arrived at Joe's on business and, as usual, stayed late to have a little talk with his friend. Well, tell me how you are doing, how young life is. Good, said Joe. Henry could see that things were not as good as he would like them to be. So tell me what happened. Yeah, I'm worried about Tony. He's been acting weird, scared. He's always crying. I noticed bruises on his arm and leg recently. I asked him where they came from. He doesn't say anything. What does May say about it? She says they were playing catch-up. He fell down. That's how he got the bruises on his body. And she explained to me that Tony must be jealous of Harry and that's why he's always nervous and quiet. She says it will pass, that he just needs to get used to it and they all need to be patient. Well, how do you believe that? So how do you believe that? Of course, May wouldn't lie. Besides, I can see how she feels about my son. She loves him like he's her own. It's true. He's really changed. He must be jealous because he even comes to her reluctantly, not like before. They talked some more, and then Henry said that he had a lot to do, as usual, and that he had to get in the car. He mentally went back to talking about the subject again, and there was something he didn't like about it. Maybe he wouldn't have thought about it if it hadn't been for one thing. But Joe had let slip that he still hadn't met May's mother. Henry could see that his friend was very worried about that because he thought it was wrong. And Henry agreed with him, and they had been raised differently. They respected their parents. Especially, he knew how Joe treated Lily's parents. then there was definitely something wrong. So he figured he'd check it out for himself. Besides, apparently it should have been done a lot sooner. But May had charmed him then, and he believed her. It wasn't her beauty or intelligence that he liked, it was the way she treated Tony. At the time, he thought she really loved the boy. Now he wasn't so sure. He wanted to go and visit Mother May himself, ask her about everything, but he realized the woman probably wouldn't trust him. Of course she wouldn't. A strange man making inquiries about her daughter. No matter who she is, a mother will stand up for her child, so he's got to get crafty. He'll get Jill to pretend to be May's friend. She says she hasn't seen her in a while because she's been away and she can't find her. Henry, what am I supposed to ask? Well, May's a friend of yours you were friends with at school. Henry, what am I supposed to ask? Then you went away for a long time, and now you're back. I'd like to meet her, but you can't find her. I think you can get her mom to talk. I don't know, though, whether she's from the resort or not. Joe said she went there for treatment. Well, what's to guess? I'll go check it out. Jill rang the shabby and old doorbell, thinking that probably no one would open it for her. But then she heard footsteps, and the door did open. There was a woman looking at her, not old yet, but hunched over, and dressed like an old woman. Girl, who do you want? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't remember your middle name. Oh, I'm Jill, May's friend. We went to college together back in the day. I've just been up here a while, so I thought I'd see her. I don't have her phone number. Can you tell me where I can find her? I bought a cake. I thought we might have tea at home. Jill saw the woman's eyes light up. Apparently, she wanted to talk to the girl who knew her daughter. Come on in, Jill. I don't remember you. May didn't like to bring friends home with her. I only went once, and that was because she left her notes at home. And me, Mary. I'll put on some seagulls and we'll talk. I haven't seen my daughter for a long time. I don't even know where she lives, but I'll give you her phone number. She calls me sometimes to see if I'm still alive. Why would you do that? She's probably just calling to see how you're doing. No, Jill, she doesn't. She doesn't love me. I know it's my own fault. I couldn't give her a decent upbringing and support. I've worked as hard as I could, but I guess my daughter needed more than that. She took after her father's character. When he left us, she cried for a long time, and then she just cut it off. She wouldn't even say his name in our house, said she never wanted to hear about him again, and she was just a little girl back then. And then it was like she was replaced. I don't know what got into her. And now you don't know where she is? She's married. Married, she's living well, she says. I think she's found some rich fool again. She doesn't like men. She only has money on her mind. I hate to say it, but it's true. She's my daughter, of course, but I feel sorry for her. I told her many times that she shouldn't do that, but she doesn't listen to anyone. The only person she loves is her little boy. But there's a bad story there too. She decided to steal a man away from her family, so she got pregnant. But the woman there was smart. She quickly put her in her place and got her kicked out of her job. It took her a long time to get over it. So is she working anywhere now? She must have gotten a job as a nanny about 3 or 4 years ago. I was surprised then. It was a job, but not for my daughter. I was babysitting my grandson, and she went to visit a man whose wife was in the hospital. I don't know the details, but she died, and my daughter probably married him. She wouldn't let her own way in, but I feel sorry for them, and I feel sorry for the daughter too. She doesn't know what she's doing. Why do you say that? Because I know her like the back of my hand. She doesn't want anyone, only money. I'm afraid for her that she'll get into trouble. Maybe I should have had her seen by a psychologist when my father left us. That's just the way it is now. Nobody ever told us about it before. I see. Well, thank you for everything. How are you feeling? Maybe you need a vacation somewhere. My own daughter doesn't help me take a vacation. I live on my pension. I can barely make ends meet. When I go to the drugstore, the hair on my head stands on end and I don't know whether to get medicine or groceries. Henry realized that May's mom was probably home because it had been an hour and Jill hadn't shown up. In fact, he was in no hurry. He needed to know every last detail. He'd promised Lily at the hospital when he'd arrived just the day before she died that he was looking out for Joe and Tony and wouldn't let them get hurt. It wasn't long before Jill showed up. She got into the car and exhaled. Yes, and our May isn't who she says she is. Henry listened intently to what Jill was telling him, and he didn't like it. He knew the kind of ladies he knew, and they would stop at nothing. Now it made sense why the subject had been so frightened lately, because May had shown her true colors. She'd gotten what she wanted. Now it's okay to give a damn about the kid. Besides, he's not going anywhere anyway. But they'll see about that. Joe sat in his office and couldn't figure out why his phone was constantly ringing. When he looked at it, he realized it was just his wife out shopping. Though he loved her, he was annoyed by her way of spending money left and right. They had talked about it many times, but to no avail. Besides, May had changed a lot. She was no longer the kind and gentle woman she had been. Now she was sometimes rude to him, and if he reprimanded her for something, she told him to shut his mouth and keep quiet. He remembered how she had watched his child when he had fought back in grief. He remembered it well, of course, and was very grateful to her. Just what had just happened? Why had May become like this? Sometimes he thought she just hated him. May had come to a friend's house after the store to chat. Look, you're unrecognizable as a rich lady. You were a rich lady. Yeah, finally. Now I can be the same person I've always been, only this time it's true. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I didn't expect it myself, to be honest. Did your husband sign over all the property to you? Not yet. Not yet, but I'm working on it. Trust me, it's not gonna be much longer. I've got a lot of ways. You'll see, I'll think of something. I want to get rid of them myself, him and his little boy. I don't like the likes of Joe. He's weak, he's gutless. I need a man who can keep me in line. But there's no such man. But you're wrong. A weak man can't get a business off the ground. His competitors will destroy him. Did it ever occur to you that he's like that with you? Just because he loves you. He's actually a normal man with a temper. I probably just don't love him. That's all. I don't care whether he has a temper or not. Henry arrived at Joe's office at lunchtime. He went into his office and asked him, as if nothing had happened, how he was doing. Yeah, I think so. It's just that Tony's been bothering me more and more. He doesn't leave his room much. He's sad all the time. Maybe we should put him in daycare. Maybe he needs to socialize with his peers. Do you have a wife at home, by the way? Yes. I don't think so. She wasn't going out today. Why? Let's go. Honestly, I miss home-cooked food so much, I can't stand it. I'm sick of eating out. You can feed your friend. I don't think May would mind. Besides, I miss Tony. I'd like to see him. May decided she wouldn't go out tonight. She'd stay home. At that time, her son came home from school. She started to set the table. It was just the two of them. Her son told her what they had at school, and she listened to him with pleasure and thought that at last her son had received everything that she had wanted to give him so long ago, that he lived in a normal house, not in that hole where his mother was now studying in a normal gymnasium, not in the school she had once attended. And where did she take her son then? When he went to first grade. Everything is different now, just as she had dreamed. That's when Tony came out of the room. Apparently, he smelled the food and was hungry too. He started to climb on the table, but May yelled at him and told him to go to his room. Then, when they had eaten, she would feed him. Tony cried and wouldn't get out of his chair. I'm so sick of you whining. I can't stand it. Harry, get a rope and take him to the radiator. Let them watch us eat, if he doesn't want to do what he's told. Harry smirked and was about to run to his room, but then he thought and pulled the belt from his pants. He strapped the little subject to the radiator, ignoring the fact that the boy was crying hard and trying to fight back. Sit here until tonight, and then before your daddy comes, I'll reach you. And try to tell him anything, it'll only make things worse. That's how they talked to Harry when the baby was screaming. May didn't hear the front door open. She didn't even feel anyone enter. She just happened to look at the subject and saw hope in his eyes. She turned around and was stunned. Her husband was standing on the doorstep, and behind him, his friend Henry was stone-faced. What's going on here? Joe shouted and rushed over to his son. May was trying to think of something to say, and Harry sat with his head tucked into his shoulders, frightened. I said, what's going on here? Joe, don't panic. It's just the way we used to play. Tony was a pirate we caught and chained him to the mast. That's all. That's the game. Yeah, I can tell it's a game because the boy was roaring with joy that you made such a great game for him. And you're eating it yourself. And you still haven't fed the baby. You know, May, I can forgive anything, but I'll never forgive you for treating a child like that. But Joe, I told you, you got it all wrong. If he's crying, it's just the boys. I guess they're at odds again. But why are you doing this? You know very well how I feel about your son. I love him like he's my own. You don't love anyone, not your mother, not your son. You only think about yourself. Your mother is sick. She can't buy her own medicine, and you're swimming in fat, and you've never helped her. What a horrible woman you are. I can't see you anymore. Go away, so that your spirit is gone. But Joe, I'm your wife, and you can't just throw me out. But then Henry interfered, May, or you'll get nothing. Unless you want us to sue you for child abuse, you better keep your mouth shut, and I want you to sign the divorce papers without a problem. Why are you interfering? You have no right to interfere. I'll sue you myself. I see, and I see you don't know what I'm talking about. If you don't listen to me, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. I'm not threatening you. I just happen to have a lot of people with a grudge against you. I ran into Jim the other day with his lovely wife. She told me so much about you, I was surprised. She's very angry with you. And I'll tell you a secret, she's got some serious connections. So she's gonna make it easy for me and Joe to take you down. And for once, think not just about yourself, but about your son. You're the only one who needs him anymore. May realized that all was lost. She looked hatefully at Joe and the child he held in his arms. Went to her room to pack. She stuffed her clothes into her suitcase, thinking the first thing she would do was go to the bank and withdraw the money from Joe's card. He apparently wouldn't remember it now. She'd have some finances for the first time. It's a shame she didn't buy enough jewelry. She was afraid. She thought she'd take care of the apartment first and then do the rest. Well, that's okay. She'll get the money, get an apartment, then she'll figure something out. Actually, it's not so bad. Finally, she'd get rid of those two. As she stood on the doorstep waiting for Harry to put on his shoes, Henry came up to her. You can't come on the card or the car. The card's locked, and I've got the car keys, so don't touch it. Now get out. Joe looked at his son, who was running merrily around the playground. After May left, he had become a fun and mischievous boy again. He put him in kindergarten, and every time he listened attentively to his son's stories about his friends and the teacher. In addition, he kept adding that no one hurt him there and everyone loved him very much. Joe didn't want to change anything yet. He liked the fact that he and his son lived together and that they didn't need anyone. Maybe that was for now, but time would tell. May tiredly came home from work, set the bags down, and started to take off her shoes. She was back in her hateful home again in this apartment that reminded her of a mouse hole, and sometimes she wanted to howl with hopelessness. She didn't speak to her mother. When she learned from her that a friend from the Institute had come to see her, when she asked her to write, she realized it was Jill. But who asked you to tell a stranger about me? I just hate you. It's all your fault. If you kept your mouth shut, I have had a nice life and wouldn't have ended up back in this slum. She went into the kitchen and thought wistfully that she had to make dinner and feed her son. And there was no money. She had bought groceries with the last of her money and to live until payday for another week. What to do? She had no idea. And as it happens, she couldn't find anyone lately. Men were avoiding her like a leper. What was wrong with her? She didn't understand. May leaned against the window and cried. She had the feeling that she was like the old woman in the fairy tale, left at a broken trough.